You thought she needed you. She needed what you did. This distinction isn't semantic, isn't minor detail, isn't subtle difference. This distinction is fundamental, is categorical, is everything. Needing you means needing who you are, needing your person, needing yourself, needing your existence, needing your being. Needing what you did means needing your function, needing your utility, needing your service, needing your provision, needing your doing, and person is different from function. Self is different from utility. Being is different from doing. Person is irreplaceable. Function is replaceable. Self is unique. Utility is substitutable. Being is singular. Doing is replicable. When she needs you, she needs something that only you are, something that can't be replaced, something that has no substitute. When she needs what you did, she needs something that you happen to provide, something that could be replaced, something that has many substitutes. You thought she needed you. She needed what you did. You thought you were irreplaceable. You were performing replaceable function. You thought your person mattered. Your provision mattered, and provision can be provided by others. Function can be performed by alternatives. Utility can be supplied by substitutes. This is why you were replaced, why she moved on easily, why your absence didn't devastate. Because what she needed wasn't you, was what you did, and what you did can be done by someone else. Understanding difference between being needed for person versus being needed for function explains everything about what you thought you had, what actually existed, what relationship was built on. Most men confuse being needed for function with being needed for person, confuse utility with love, confuse provision with attachment, confuse doing with being. Confusion is understandable because being needed feels like being needed. Utility feels like value. Provision feels like importance. Doing feels like mattering. But feeling like mattering isn't mattering in way you think. Feeling needed isn't being needed for who you are. Feeling valuable isn't being valued for your person. You felt needed because you were needed, but needed for what you did not, who you were felt valuable, because you provided value. But value is functional, not personal. Felt important because you mattered, but mattered as utility, not as self. This distinction determines everything. Determines if you're replaceable or irreplaceable. Determines if absence can be filled or creates permanent void. Determines if relationship was about you or about what you provided, what you did for her, what you provided, what you performed, what you supplied, what functions you served, fixed things, solved problems, provided money, offered security, gave attention, supplied validation, performed emotional labor, provided stability, offered predictability, gave comfort. Each thing you did was function, was utility, was service, was provision. And each function can be performed by others. Each utility can be supplied by alternatives. Each service can be provided by substitutes. You fixed her car, someone else can fix her car. You solved her problems, someone else can solve her problems. You provided money, someone else can provide money. You offered security, someone else can offer security. Every single thing you did, someone else can do. This is reality of function, nature of utility, truth of provision. Function isn't unique to person performing it. Utility isn't tied to individual supplying it. Provision isn't exclusive to provider giving it. You thought because you did these things you were needed, and you were needed, but needed for doing, not for being. Needed for function, not for person. Needed for utility, not for self. When relationship is based on what you do, relationship is transactional, is functional, is utilitarian. Transaction means exchange. You provide utility and receive relationship. You offer function and receive connection. You give service and receive partnership. But transaction isn't love. Exchange isn't attachment. Utility isn't devotion. Transactional relationship continues as long as transaction is favorable. Functional connection maintains as long as function is needed. Utilitarian partnership persists as long as utility is required. When better transaction appears, relationship ends. When superior function becomes available, connection dissolves. When improved utility emerges, partnership terminates. You were in transaction, thinking you were in love. Were in functional arrangement, thinking you were in emotional bond. were in utilitarian exchange, thinking you were in devoted partnership, and transaction ended when better transaction appeared. Function was replaced when superior function emerged. Utility was substituted when improved utility became available. This is why she left easily, why transition was smooth, why replacement was quick, because what she was replacing wasn't person, was function, wasn't self, was utility, wasn't being, was doing. And function is easy to replace. Utility is simple to substitute. Doing is quick to replicate. You thought replacing you would be hard because you're a unique person. But she wasn't replacing your person, was replacing your function. And function isn't unique. Function is category. Anyone who can perform function can fill role. Anyone who can provide utility can serve purpose. Anyone who can execute doing can replace you. This is brutal truth of functional relationship, harsh reality of utilitarian connection, devastating fact of transactional partnership. You're not special. You're functional. You're not unique. You're useful. You're not irreplaceable. You're currently performing role. Currently performing doesn't mean permanently necessary. Useful doesn't mean valued for self. Functional doesn't mean loved for person. When someone who can perform function better appears, when someone who can provide utility more efficiently emerges, when someone who can execute doing more effectively becomes available, you're replaced. Not because you failed, because better function appeared. Not because you weren't good enough, because more efficient utility emerged. Not because you did wrong, because more effective doing became available. Replacement isn't about your inadequacy, is about function optimization, isn't about your failure, is about utility improvement, isn't about your worth, is about doing efficiency. She didn't leave because you weren't good person, because she wasn't relating to your person. Didn't leave because you weren't valuable, because your value is functional, not personal. Didn't leave because you weren't important, because your importance was utilitarian, not essential. You were replaced because what you did can be done by others. What you provided can be provided by alternatives. What you performed can be performed by substitutes. And when relationship is based on what you do, replacement is inevitable. Substitution is expected. Exchange is natural progression. How you know if she needed you or needed what you did. How you distinguish between personal need and functional need. How you recognize difference between being valued for self versus being valued for utility. If relationship continues when you stop doing, she needs you. If relationship ends when you stop doing, she needs what you did. If connection maintains when you stop providing, she values your person. If connection dissolves when you stop providing, she values your provision. If partnership persists when you stop performing, she's attached to your being. If partnership terminates when you stop performing, she's attached to your doing. This test is simple, is clear, is definitive. Stop doing and see what happens. Stop providing and observe response. Stop performing and watch outcome. If she stays, person matters. If she leaves, function mattered. Most men never test this. Never stop doing, never cease providing, never quit performing. They maintain doing because maintaining doing maintains relationship. Continue providing because continuing providing continues connection. Persist performing because persisting performing preserves partnership. But maintaining relationship through doing isn't having relationship based on being. Continuing connection through providing isn't having connection based on person. Preserving partnership through performing isn't having partnership based on self. You're maintaining functional relationship, continuing utilitarian connection, preserving transactional partnership. And functional relationship ends when function ends. Utilitarian connection dissolves when utility ceases. Transactional partnership terminates when transaction stops. You can maintain doing forever, can continue providing indefinitely, can persist performing permanently. But maintaining isn't being loved for person. Continuing isn't being valued for self. Persisting isn't being needed for being. Is being kept for utility. Is being maintained for function. Is being preserved for doing. Kept, maintained, preserved. These are words for objects, not persons. For tools, not selves. For utilities, not beings. Your tool being kept for usefulness, object being maintained for function, utility being preserved for service. And tool is replaced when better tool appears. Object is exchanged when superior object emerges. Utility is substituted when improved utility becomes available. This is what happens in functional relationship. This is outcome of utilitarian connection. This is end of transactional partnership. You thought you were building something based on who you are. You were performing functions. Thought you were valued for your person. You were valued for your provision. Thought you were loved for your being. You were needed for your doing. And doing ends. Providing stops. Performing ceases. Through your choice or through inability. Through decision or through circumstance. Through intention or through limitation. When doing ends, functional relationship ends. When providing stops, utilitarian connection stops. When performing ceases, transactional partnership ceases. Because relationship wasn't based on you, was based on what you did. Connection wasn't built on person, was built on provision. Partnership wasn't founded on being, was founded on doing. And when doing foundation crumbles, partnership collapses. When provision basis dissolves, connection ends. When function ground disappears, relationship terminates. Some men discover this when they lose job, when income stops, when provision ceases. Relationship ends not because person changed, because function ended. Connection dissolves not because self altered, because utility ceased. Partnership terminates not because being shifted, because doing stopped. Loss of job revealed relationship was based on provision. Cessation of income showed connection was based on utility. Ending of function exposed partnership was based on doing. Other men discover this when they become ill, when capability decreases, when performance declines. Relationship ends not because person is less lovable, because function is less performable. Connection dissolves not because self is less valuable, because utility is less profitable. Partnership terminates not because being is less worthy, because doing is less executable. Decline in capability revealed relationship was based on function. Decrease in performance showed connection was based on utility. Reduction in doing exposed partnership was based on provision. Still other men discover this when they establish boundaries, when they stop overfunctioning, when they reduce excessive provision. Relationship ends not because boundaries are wrong, because function decreased. Connection dissolves not because balance is unhealthy, because utility reduced. Partnership terminates not because limits are problematic, because doing lessened. Establishment of boundaries revealed relationship required overfunctioning. Cessation of excessive provision showed connection needed imbalance. Reduction of doing exposed partnership demanded utility. All these discoveries reveal same truth, expose same reality, show same foundation. She needed what you did, not who you were. Valued your provision, not your person. Required your doing, not your being. And what you did was replaceable. Provision was substitutable. Doing was replicable. Why this matters? Why understanding this changes everything? Why recognizing distinction is critical? Because understanding prevents confusion, prevents misinterpretation, prevents false assumption. If you understand relationship is functional, you won't confuse function with love, won't misinterpret utility as devotion, won't assume provision means attachment. You'll know relationship is conditional. Connection is transactional. Partnership is utilitarian. And knowing allows appropriate response, allows realistic expectation, allows accurate assessment. You can choose to continue functioning, knowing that's what maintains relationship. Can choose to keep providing understanding, that's what sustains connection. Can choose to persist, doing recognizing that's what preserves partnership. Or you can choose to seek relationship based on person, connection based on being, partnership based on self. Both choices are valid. Both responses are reasonable. Both decisions are acceptable. What's not reasonable is confusing functional for personal, misunderstanding utilitarian as devoted, misinterpreting transactional as loving. Confusion creates false expectations. Misunderstanding generates wrong assumptions. Misinterpretation produces inappropriate hopes. You expect to be valued for person. You're valued for provision. You assume to be needed for self. You're needed for doing. You hope to be loved for being. You're kept for utility. Gap between expectation and reality creates suffering. Distance between assumption and truth generates pain. Space between hope and experience produces devastation. You thought she needed you. She needed what you did. Explains gap. Explains distance. Explains space. Explains why what you expected didn't happen. Why what you assumed wasn't true. Why what you hoped didn't materialize. Because expectations were based on wrong foundation. Assumptions were built on incorrect basis. Hopes were established on false premise. Foundation was functional, not personal. Basis was utilitarian, not devoted. Premise was transactional, not loving. And functional foundation creates functional outcomes. Utilitarian basis generates utilitarian results. Transactional premise produces transactional consequences. She needed what you did, and when what you did stopped, or when someone else could do it better, relationship ended. Not because you weren't a good person, because relationship wasn't about person. Not because you weren't valuable, because value is functional. Not because you weren't worthy, because worth was utilitarian. You were replaced, substituted, exchanged. Not because you failed at being person, because person wasn't what relationship was based on. Not because you failed at being self, because self wasn't what connection required. Not because you failed at being, because being wasn't what partnership needed. You failed at continuing to do what you did, failed at maintaining provision, failed at sustaining function, or didn't fail, just couldn't continue, just stopped providing, just ceased performing. Either way, outcome is same, relationship ends, connection dissolves, partnership terminates. Because relationship was built on doing and doing ended. Connection was based on provision and provision stopped. Partnership was founded on function and function ceased. This is mechanical reality of functional relationship, structural truth of utilitarian connection, systemic fact of transactional partnership, not moral judgment, not personal criticism, not character assessment. Is category distinction, is foundation identification, is basis recognition. You thought she needed you. She needed what you did. Person versus function, being versus doing, self versus utility. And function is replaceable. Doing is substitutable. Utility is exchangeable. You were replaced because what you did can be done by others. And relationship that's based on what you do ends when what you do ends, or when someone else can do it better. This is why you were replaced, why she moved on easily, why your absence didn't devastate. Because what she lost wasn't you, was what you did. And what you did can be done by someone else.